And so I wanted to speak today on. There was a video I watched by Tony Gaskins. He is a relationship coach, and at personal and professional development. He's very successful, and I think one of the most important influencers, at least in my life. Just because of the simple fact that I do have a family, I am married, and so I'm always constantly looking to grow and looking to develop personally and professionally. And so I also want to get this message out there for anyone who needs to hear it, in the sense of, there was a video that I had watched last week, and I may be butchering it, so I apologize, but it was called Matching Your Partner's Energy. Something of the sort, like that. Matching energy. And I wanted to speak on that. I think it was such a powerful conversation. Thoughts, right? Conversation implies more than one person, but that's how I feel when Tony is talking. When I'm watching, I feel like I'm about to have a conversation with him. But I really sat with the notion of one has to be very careful with how they match partner's energy, or in this case, how you're matching your spouse's energy. And he made a great analogy, and it was to how we are pieces of a puzzle. We are pieces of a puzzle that come together, that fit in congruence with the quote unquote, if you will, in this case, opposite puzzle piece. And together, we come together in a perfect union and celebration, right? There's no such thing as perfection, but what I'm alluding to is the fact that that person was divinely made for you. You were divinely made for this individual. And if you are so lucky to go through this lifetime and find your person and find your missing piece to the puzzle, then you're that much more blessed. You're that much more ahead of the game. You're that much closer to what I like to think quality of life and lifetime happiness and fulfillment, because you have your person. And so, however, relationships are complex. Human beings, we are complex. And it is a fine dance, I like to think. I'm also a dancer, so one of my hobbies, I teach dance, but that's besides the point. So when I say that it is a fine dance, you have to be careful with how you match your partner's energy. And I am by no means perfect at this, let me tell you. So there was a situation, and I want to share this example because I feel that perhaps I'm not the only one living this truth. And so my husband and I, my partner and I, we have very strong personalities. Okay. I think depending on, if one goes high, one goes low. If one goes low, the other one goes high. I like to think that we counter each other very nicely. However, if we are both heated, if we are both upset, I don't think either one of us is going to get the point across to the other person, right? Because we have these defense mechanisms that, in this case, in this example, for example, me, I shut down. You can yell at me until the cows come home, but guess what? If I'm checked out, I'm checked out. So you're pretty much talking to yourself or yelling at yourself. And so if I don't feel that I'm listened to, if I don't feel that my perspective is warranted or welcomed, then why give it? Why even waste time and energy, right? However, in a marriage, in a partnership, in a lifelong commitment, when you have vowed to be with someone, that comes with the good, the ugly, and everything in between. And so in this situation, what ended up happening was I was unhappy with the fact that I have a certain level of expectation of quote unquote how the house should be, right? In terms of cleanliness, order, whatever the case may be. My husband has a different notion. And that notion, and very practical, let me give credit to where credit is due. I know I could be a little bit of an anal retentive OCD, like, oh, we have to clean and organize for whatever reason. I don't know why. It was taught to me. It was programmed, my family upbringing. But he, on the other hand, is very practical in that, hey, if something's going on, or we have 2 little kids, and so that's obviously more than understandable, more than accepting. We have 2 kids. We have a toddler that's 2, and we have a baby girl who is 9 months this month, okay? I completely understand that, there is a to-do list, if you will, and we couldn't make it to the to-do list. If there was a list of 5 or a list of 10, life got out of our hands, and the kiddos were, jumping off the walls, and then you have to coordinate food, diaper changes, nap times, activities. I get it all because I was a stay-at-home mom for the entire life of my toddler and for the beginning of my baby. I recently just went back to work full-time, and so the household roles have been swapped and switched. And so I don't necessarily think my husband, to give him credit, see what I'm doing? I'm putting myself in his shoes. I'm not matching energy, but I'm trying to be empathetic and understand, right? Seek to understand. And so, especially if you're sharing your life with someone. And so in this moment, in this example, what ended up happening was I come home. It's been one of those days at work. I mean, just exhausting. And I come home, and I think I did like some groceries or something too. So I was, both of my hands were full with bags and bags and bags. And so we live on a 2nd floor. I'm huffing and puffing, all right? I walk in. Sorry, y'all. The sun is in my eyes now, and of course, I'm going to have to look up. I do apologize. So I get in, and when I get in, the house is a mess. It is a freaking mess, all right? Mess to me. Let me disclose. A mess to me. Enough that we have like an L-shaped couch. I couldn't sit down. If I wanted to sit down, I couldn't sit down because there were so many things all over the couch, all over the floor. We don't live in a huge place, in a huge apartment. And so I was very, in that moment, livid, very upset. Because in my mind, I like to think that when my husband was the one working, holding it down, I was holding it down at home. And I would like to think, right, not everyone thinks that way. That's why communication is so important. I would like to think that I kept the house orderly enough that when he came home, he didn't have to worry about not being able to sit somewhere, or about what we're eating for dinner, or, I need help with the children because I, quote unquote, would have had it. And so what ended up happening was this is where the matching of energy goes, right? I had to be very conscientious of how I proceeded to move forward in this conversation, because my immediate response was anger. My immediate response was annoyance. My immediate response was WTF. My immediate response was, this man knows I'm working all day. I come home. On top of that, I do the groceries. I come up the flight of 2 stairs. The kids are, running amok, whatnot. And then I come home in this disorder. And in my mind, right, he has not told me this. He has never said this, to his credit. Am I supposed to clean this up? Am I supposed to also just keep going and keep going and keep going until I can't go on anymore? And so there I go, shutting down. Pardon the ambulance. And so there I go, shutting down. because I want to avoid conflict. And there's a difference, all right? And I had to sit with this. I watched this video, maybe a week ago from today. I really had to let it sit with my spirit, sit with my mental, and I had to come back and then have this conversation. And so I needed to express myself. I needed to express the annoyance. I needed to express the expectations and at least see what was going on, right? But I also know him. And for whatever reason, when it comes to cleanliness and order and being on top of things in terms of like administration and things like that, I know that that's my strength. I know that that's within my wheelhouse. And he, remember, pieces of the puzzle, he compliments me. So meaning his strength is my weakness. My strength is his weakness, right? But I like to think that there's a common ground. And so at first I just shut down and I had to think and sit with my thoughts, because I feel like when you know someone, you know exactly which buttons to press and which trigger words and phrases to use. And I could have gone there. I could have went there, but I decided not to. And then part of me was also thinking, but Dana, you have to advocate for yourself. You can't just continue to allow things to keep adding up and keep compiling one on top of another. And you need to be strong for you. You know, your voice matters. And for whatever reason, something inside me was like, yeah, you tend to avoid conflict many times because I like to think that I'm the silent influencer in our relationship. And that does not mean that I'm quiet all the time. By no means, believe me. I'm Latina, I'm Puerto Rican. I was raised in a loud household of like, at any given time, there was like 15 people or 10 people at our house. And so that's not it. But what I'm saying is you have to pick and choose your battles wisely. And for me, did I want to get into an argument? Did I want to create that friction? Because I know he's already sensitive about how he, for whatever reason, and maybe it's my influence, right? Who knows? Thinks that I'm always going to have something to say or whatever the case may be. I don't know. Whatever. The point is that I had to speak up for myself. I couldn't just leave it unchecked, because what happens? Closed mouths don't get fed. If you're not open with your spouse, your partner, how do you expect them to, one, hear you, two, welcome any conversation, even if it is challenging, even if you're pushing the envelope, and three, to know how to shift and pivot? And what are those expectations? What are those healthy boundaries that we're setting so that they can fulfill that because they love you, because they love the relationship, right? And to give you context, this is not someone I met like yesterday, all right? This is a person that I have been in a relationship with, a committed relationship, for 8 years. And this upcoming December will be 3 years married, okay? And so this isn't new. This is nothing that I just sprung on him like, oh my gosh, now I'm OCD freaking, you're not, holding up your end of the bargain. No. I think it was one of those moments where I was just very tired. I was very annoyed. I had zero patience, and I have a lot of patience. But that day I was just not having it. And so I think about the message in Tony's video that it was saying, you have to be careful on how you match energy. And so I brought it up. I brought the conversation up because I had to be an advocate for me too. It just can't be, please husband, and please husband. What about me? And so I brought it up. I didn't yell. I kept it at a very, neutral level in how I communicated my annoyance in that moment. And then we kind of went at it for like 2 minutes. Not horrible, and not in front of the kids. We don't argue in front of the kids. But he gave his feedback and he was telling me, hey, life happened. I couldn't get to it, blah, 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 blah. You've been through this too, blah, 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 blah. And then I turned around and I was like, yeah, but when you were working, this wasn't the situation, and blah, 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 blah. And, kind of going back and forth for a couple of minutes. And then we concluded the conversation. And something in me was thinking, oh, gosh, he doesn't understand me, or he doesn't da-da-da. But he listened. And so when matching energy, the emotional intelligence side is so pivotal. It's so important because, especially in a committed relationship, especially in a marriage, you have to learn when to let things go. And when to understand that people are practicing or coming from a place of positive intent. They're not doing it out of malice. They're not doing it to hurt you. They're not doing it even on purpose. It may be something that just happenstance. It just happened. But for me, sorry, I'm driving and I'm making sure I'm safe at all times. All right. Always use your mirrors. Always look around. So for me, I could have made a choice. I could have made a choice to stay in the funk and be upset and pout and be Miss Pissy Pants. But then there was another part of me, and what's great is that he took a breather. He went outside. He went for a walk. And then it allowed me time to breathe and to reflect a little, right, on that whole matching energy. Well, I hadn't heard the video at that point, but in my mind, I'm thinking, what should I do? And so when he came back upstairs, I was really ready to be defensive, really ready to be like, what? But no. See, God is good. He came, we were talking about something, and he just spoke to me just like nothing. Reset, reshift, pivot, and right there I had to make a decision. Do I meet him where he's at? Or do I stay in my funk and bring him down with me? Matching energy. So in my mind, I said, no. I'm going to meet him where he's at. Because my emotional intelligence recognized his emotional intelligence at the moment and said, this man heard you. He heard your frustration. He took the note. And he is still in a good spirit, in a good place, and wants to move forward and enjoy his evening with his wife and his family. So we moved on, and we shifted, and we pivoted. And I think there's purpose in what the message is coming from Tony Gaskins. So look him up on YouTube, on Instagram. Because I'm quoting my source, all right? So this is not a paid advertisement or anything like that. He doesn't know me, I don't know him. But I love his videos, and so I would encourage you to watch his videos as well. And I think the message of being that puzzle piece that fits in with one another. Imagine, you know yourself, right? Well, I would hope one knows themselves. And so when you know yourself and you know how you are, all the ins and outs, the intricacies, everything, right? And then you pair yourself with another you. Is that what you want? Now, there's no right or wrong answer to this. It really is not. It's just a moment of reflection. For me, everyone's different. For me, I enjoy the fact that my partner is my opposite, because I truly do feel in moments where I am weak, he is my strength. I truly do feel that in his moments of weakness, I am his strength. And so it is a beautiful pairing of two souls that have decided to do this thing called life together, and they're putting each other first. Now, is it perfect? By no means. Absolutely not. But it's our journey. It's our love. And it's our union. And for however imperfectly perfect we are with one another, I think it's also very important to always advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself in moments where you do feel that perhaps your partner is more of the, lead in the conversation or in the situation. And I think that complacency, time and place, I don't think that one should just sit there and take it, right? Your voice matters, your experience, your lived experience matters. And so my little gem for today of information is how important emotional intelligence is, how important it is to ebb and flow and listen and communicate and be present with your partner, with your spouse, and with your family if you have a family. But that you don't have to stop being you in it all, right? That person fell in love with you, made that life commitment with you for a reason. And so I think we don't do ourselves a disservice if we just change for any one person, or if we just allow circumstances to change us irreversibly, where we're unrecognizable to who our thoughts are, how our spirit moves, and how we practice on a day-to-day. And so I apologize for the sun. I know I'm driving, but I am also taking what Tony said to heart, in the sense that mama's hustling out here in these streets, okay? So I have to, time is money, and it's also very little, and I don't want to misuse it, nor to just let it go. So I think that I've lived enough. I'm in my late 30s, although a woman should never reveal her age. And I think that I definitely have life experience to bring to the table, to share, to impart onto others. And at least, if nothing else, it gives you perspective. And you can go ahead and take it with a grain of salt, or take it verbatim, whatever you will. But you're not in this thing called life alone. There are other people. There are experience with which people are having that you can reflect upon, compare, or even admire, and one day, inspire to be or to have. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. Advocate for yourself. Love your partner and your spouse with your entire self. Don't forget to show up for one another and be true to everything around you and for you and in you. And